Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And we are now here live with Jayne Schwarz. She is a life coach from Long Island, but she can coach you anywhere. Welcome back today. How you doing?
Hi, Jill. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. For those of you here on the podcast, we're also live on Zoom today as well. So I get to see Miss Jayne in person, which is exciting. I think a better connection when you do it this way to see someone face to face. So thank you for being
Yes.
here.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your company, about you, who you are, and what you do. And I know we have some great talks today. We're going to talk a little bit about the 10 steps to overcoming fear, which kind of limit us in so many ways. So Jayne, tell us about yourself.
Yes, I am a certified professional life coach.
Mm-hmm.
I provide coaching services to people looking for personal growth. If there is an area of your life you want to improve, I would work with you in developing goals, a plan, and provide insightful feedback and accountability to help you make the necessary changes and overcome obstacles that might be holding you back from reaching your goals.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of us do that. And why? Is fear the number one cause? What are we so scared of?
Yes, yes. Fear is a big one. You know, Fear is something we all feel, and it winds up holding us back from reaching our potential.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Robbins says fear is a normal evolutionary response. We can also define fear as an emotion or a feeling that we feel based on the belief that we're in danger. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I love this way of looking at fear as false evidence appearing real. Isn't that
Mm,
great?
that is. Wow.
Because often it is really our imagination
Mm-hmm.
that causes the fear rather than
True.
reality, right? However, there some fear is good because
Mm-hmm.
it is our survival instincts telling us to be alert,
Yeah,
right? There might
of
be
course.
danger.
So we do need it.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. So we need these fears for our survival and safety, but it's important to listen to what these fears or emotions are telling us. Some fears, however, are irrational and don't really serve a purpose. So instead, these fears are based on our programming or false belief systems or a
Uh,
past traumatic experience, right? So, we do develop fears. These fears can be subtle and harder to detect, like fear of failure, which we talked about last week, and
mm-hmm.
fear of abandonment. Okay. So, we do develop fears from our experiences. Parents' fears are passed down to us, and our social environment creates fears for us. And usually, when we have a negative reaction, we're experiencing a fear at the root of it. For example, feeling frustrated, anxious, angry, or jealous, usually it's fear at its root.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking here also at your notes. So you have to identify those fears specifically, correct? But not everybody could
Right.
do that themselves. How do you guide someone in getting there and feeling comfortable to talk about it? Because fear's fear. Normally, how does it work when you just talk to someone? You let them sit down and start writing them down.
Well, there's lots of strategies that you can employ
Mm-hmm.
to overcome your fear. We'll go over the 10 steps,
Sure.
but there are lots of strategies that I would work with someone with. And when I work with someone, it's really based on what they want to get out of, we're partners.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we work on the relationship and the communication and the guidance that they want. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm just really guiding and providing insights into how they can figure things out for themselves and get to know who they really are and what they really want and, all those things we've been talking about.
Now, do you have a personal example that you wanted to share?
Yeah, actually, for example, I have a fear of rejection, right? Or I used to, I wouldn't say I've overcome it, but I'm better at handling it. But it used to really bother me when people didn't like me, or,
Mm-hmm.
I really took it very personally. And I also used to hate when people said the word no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate it. I felt like it was a personal attack or something. So I really had to work on that. And, I know people will always have their reasons for not liking me, and they have every right to have those feelings, but it
Mm-hmm.
still bothered me. But now, I've kind of come to terms with this fear, and I have worked on it, and now I'm more balanced. And I feel like it's really more, everything's about balance. And to be balanced, it doesn't have to be a balance, like
Yeah.
balanced, right? It could be, so for example, I do still care about what people think of me. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's an important thing because that guides our
Good.
actions and things, right? So,
True. Mm-hmm.
but I think about what I think more, right? I place more emphasis on what I really think, instead of what people think of me.
Beautifully
So,
said. Yeah.
so I've balanced it that way,
Good.
and it's really worked for me.
Got it. I mean, yeah, I've always had the fear of rejection, of succeeding. There's things in life to take opportunities for career wise and work. And I was always so scared. And now I think a lot of it comes with age, right? But I wish I knew now I wish I knew then what I knew now. Is that the saying? Yeah.
Yes,
Right. If only
yes,
we could, like, could we start coaching our youth and our teenagers? I mean, I think that would
yes,
make a lot
yes.
of sense, right? Because
Mhm,
the
mhm.
earlier the better to learn about fears and to help overcome them, which I don't think many schools do. No, no.
Right, right.
I
I'm with you. I've said over and over that I think everybody should have a life coach or a therapist or someone. I've been through therapy for many, many years, and I still go, and I will always continue to go. I have my own life coach, so
That's
it's so important.
awesome.
It's so important to have someone to talk to and to bounce ideas off of, and to give you a perspective that you didn't think of, or that's really what we're here for.
And a neutral opinion, let me say, because some people have friends or family, and which is good to have someone, but at the same time, they may not be. Friends and family could be tricky. It's good to have a
Right,
neutral, right? Party
right,
who's looking
right.
out from the outside, in a sense, because things get a little tricky with that.
Right. Jill, you always say it so eloquently.
Well, thanks. I try. I'm like, blah, 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 trying to figure it out. It doesn't sound so eloquent, but thanks for thinking so. Oh, by the way, JayneSchwartzCoaching.com. Let's just remind our listeners of your website. We didn't do that off the top while we're here. JayneSchwarz coaching.com, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And we are talking about overcoming our fears today, which is awesome because we all have them. And some you mentioned before, deep rooted in trauma, like childhood trauma, in a sense, right? Do you find a lot of people, these fears develop at an early age and you kind of push them aside? And it's not till you're an adult do you realize, hey, maybe this is what's causing that.
Right, right. Exactly. That's, the the first step of overcoming your fears is to identify it. And I think it's one of the hardest steps because we do, Jill, get so used to just
Yep.
brushing it away, handling it, right? We
Yep.
handle it whatever way, sometimes not so good, sometimes better
Hmm.
than others, and sometimes we handle it well, but it's still there. So we kind of brush it away and we don't take the time. And taking time is a very important part of the 10 steps, is taking that time to reflect on
Oh,
yourself
yeah.
and what your thoughts, your emotions, your physical sensations, everything that's going on with you, and where does that come from? What is it rooted in? What
Hmm.
is the root of that fear? Because when we have negative reactions to things, it's usually rooted in fear, and we have to kind of dig a little deeper to find out what the root of that is. Not you know I like to think of life coaches as getting to the roots of problems and getting to the roots of things, instead of like other people who might just handle the symptoms of an illness or a
Yeah.
problem.
Which,
We want to get, which can be effective for a time, right?
hmm.
Or at times when you don't have the time to reflect, but we try and get to the root of what's going on, and really have you overcome that, and uh you know get on, get to a better place in life.
Got it. So you said identify your fears, recognize the fear that can work to your advantage, sit with your fear, create goals that are must, surround yourself with success, adopt a growth mindset, find valuable insight in pain, visualize your goals, accept that you'll fail. So when you mention the words visualize, right,
Mhm.
and create those goals, or should we be writing them down? How do you tackle that specifically?
That, that is a great question because that includes a lot of the strategies that you can use. So we have journaling. You
Mm-hmm.
can write things
Journaling.
down.
Yep.
You want to try and use like as many senses as you can. So
Mm-hmm.
writing it down, saying it out loud,
Okay.
is effective. Saying it to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's writing. That's talking and hearing. You could record it and playing it back to yourself. So any way that and then we talked about vision boards. I love vision
Yep.
boards. Create that helps to tap into our more creative side, and you can really it's fun, right? You've
Yeah.
done one.
Absolutely. And I know I used to be king of or queen of the post-it notes, and then it got out of hand because there were so many notes all over the walls in my house, the office, and it was, but and then I started using the phone, but I found the phone didn't work because it was harder to go in and to look at it. I need to see it. And
Right,
I
right,
got the good thing with the post notes, I was able to pull it off the wall, but then I got too many. So I like seeing it on one sheet of paper,
right,
scratch it off, feel better knowing that it's scratched off. Because once I remove the post-it, I
right.
have to add another, and I'm like, okay, I don't get to finish everything. But yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I love vision boards, and you could do it any way you want. I put it right on my wall going to the
Yeah.
bathroom. So every
Hmm.
time I went to the bathroom, I saw it. And then I take it down, I do another one. And whether it, I just enjoy doing it, and it taps into your creative side, and it helps you to create a vision for your life, which we have to have if we're going to
Yeah.
get anywhere,
Yeah.
right? If we're just
Hmm.
going on autopilot, we're not going
Very,
to get
very
where we want
true.
to go,
Oh
right?
gosh, it's so true. Yep. Continue. What else did you want to share about fears today and how you can help?
Yeah, so taking time out, we
Hmm.
find you could find a private space, observe our thoughts, emotions, and other symptoms specific to ourselves.
Okay.
You kind of have to get to know your signals, get to know what happens to you when you feel fear. Do you snap at people? Do you isolate? Do kind of get to know yourself and what you do when you feel fear? Um, and when we experience fear or your signals, like a negative reaction, s- some taking the time out and being passive raises our self-awareness, and it prevents us from doing the typical things we do when we experience fear. And another one that I love is breathing deeply, just taking a
Yeah.
breath, right?
Yeah.
um, if you're in a situation where you can't take yourself away and take time out to reflect, then breathe deep breathing, and has just really taking time to not do anything, just to breathe and focus and get yourself together, not reacting. Right, we talked about we don't want to react to people, we want to respond to people. So you want to face your fears. So instead of, like we said, brushing them under the
Hmm.
rug, we want to bring our fears to the surface because it allows us to interpret them from an adult's mind and from a higher perspective. You want to ask yourself, what fears are holding me back from personal growth?
Mm.
And we can't pretend our fears don't exist. We all have them.
Yeah.
Sit quietly for a few moments, observe your thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations. But like I said, if you're not in a situation to do that, breathing is really good. Name your fear out loud. Be really honest with yourself. Go
Hmm.
somewhere and have a conversation with yourself. I do it all the time. I live alone and I talk to myself all the time. I think I drive people crazy because I think out loud too.
I do the same thing. I know. My kids think I'm nuts sometimes, but yes.
Write it down, like we said, what comes up, writing it down, journaling. Journaling can be anything you want. You can write your thoughts, you can write your visions, you can write you know, whatever you want to write down, and practice mindfulness. We talked about mindfulness. Identify the
Hmm.
root cause of our fears. Often, um, what you want to do is override your conditioned mind.
Yep.
We're conditioned to react in certain ways and to think in certain ways based on other our upbringing and society and everything. We are conditioned to act in certain ways and things. So you want to override that conditioned mind and really think for yourself and be honest with yourself and get to the root of what's causing it. And once we know what the problem is, we can fix it,
Yeah.
right?
Very
Without
true.
knowing what the problem is, you can't fix it.
I love that. Very good. And I'm also reading in regards to, you talk a little bit about Buddhists. Could you explain a little bit about Buddhists and how that comes into play here? Because this is interesting as well. Because I wasn't familiar with this. You say they don't really exist. They believe we don't really exist. Nothing exists. It's an illusion, right?
Right, right. I don't necessarily believe this, but I like to look at different thoughts and theories and
And
perspectives of,
everyone
because
has.
it,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So Buddhists believe we don't really exist. They believe nothing exists. It's all an illusion. Just like when we dream, it
Mm-hmm.
feels real. This is supposedly a dream state, and we're not awake. So, but if this were true,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
this is a dream we have some control over. So why not make it the best dream you can imagine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, also, another perspective that I read about was as spiritual beings, we enter into contracts to create a life as a human. We actually choose to come here and live and learn. We're here to learn something. And if
Absolutely.
something keeps repeating in your life, that might be
That's
your life lesson, right?
that's so
So,
true. Yeah.
so again, if we're here for a purpose and we chose to come here, you only have one life. Join the journey for personal growth, and we all have greatness in us. Don't settle for mediocrity. Live the life to the fullest and build life, that you want, and that's the beyond. It can really happen, beyond your uh, imagination. We can
Yeah.
only imagine so far, but there's so much greatness in everyone, and we have to think about the stories we tell about ourselves to ourselves. Think about that story and rewrite it,
Yeah.
right? Rewrite the story. Don't focus on the negative parts of your life. Think about all the lessons you've learned. And
Positive.
I really believe everything happens for a reason. And Jill, you mentioned that you didn't go into meteorology and you regret that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking to myself, that's something that maybe you weren't ready for. It wasn't the right time, or
Correct.
there's something better for
Better
you.
or
There's
something
something
else. Or I
right.
still could, but yeah, it's I mean, yeah, you're right. What I do now is great, but just feel like you look at something that's maybe a little bit more of a longevity of a career instead of the entertainment aspect but anyway, it's something that I kind of regret that. And then becoming a doctor, I started off in pre-med going to medical school at Stony Brook, and then I switched. So, but you're right, you're always going to have regrets in life, right? And you choose your own paths. And I believe it's kind of just that's what's meant to happen. You're right.
Right,
Good
right.
memory.
Instead of a regret, think of
Make
it
it
as
into,
a learning lesson, right?
yeah, you're
Into
right.
part of your journey.
Mm-hmm.
You learn you something you learned from that. And there's a reason that happened. And
Exactly.
you're and one of the reasons is why you're here now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
wouldn't be here. Yeah.
you wouldn't be where you are today without that happening. So it's part of your journey,
Yeah.
and you can write the story any way you want,
Mm-hmm. I
right?
love
You
it.
could
Yeah.
write it as a regret or as a positive
Positive. Got to put the
influence.
positive
And
spin on it. You're right.
well, yeah, and I'm not saying you have to be positive all the time and look at just the positive. Look at the negative. Absolutely, we have to be realistic and think of all aspects of it.
Yeah.
But really, what should resonate is the positive,
Yeah.
because 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 it's your life, and you can't change the past. We
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything about it. So the way we look at it and the way we tell that story to ourselves is what's going to create our attitude towards life.
Mm-hmm.
And and that really affects everything we do.
Yeah. And when you work with someone one on one, that you offer different types of coaching programs. You have the Design Your Life coaching program package, right? So you said you
Yeah,
first start
yeah.
off by dismantling your limiting beliefs and
Hmm.
dispose of those negative thoughts. And how long does it take, to get through that, to kind of make those changes with someone?
Well, Working once a week, I think my program is 12 weeks.
Hmm.
And I would say they could overcome several limiting beliefs by then
Great.
and really be in a uh, good place. So, but everybody's different, and what works for someone may not work for someone else. So it's always, it's when you're working with people, it's a it's a
Yeah.
gamble, right?
Yeah. But you offer the option, you have your conversations, you do text messaging, calls, everything, how does it work as far as you and holding, being accountable, and how do you check on them and vice versa?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm really flexible because I have that ability, and whatever the client needs is really what I do. So if the client needs me to check in with them every day, I'll check in with them every day. If they need me to be with them in a situation, I would do that as well.
Hmm.
Because coaching is great in the moment.
Yeah.
So they can reach out to me anytime. I can, I'll reach out to them. It's a relationship. Uh, it's not an hour a week.
Got it. Got it. That's important to know.
Uh, yeah.
And what do
Mhm,
you, I mean, clearly you love what you do. And I love
mhm.
hearing the fact that, we've all had our own share of issues. We've all come through. Have you ever met a client that's so perfect? No, right? Everybody's been through something, and it makes you feel better knowing you're not alone. Like when the pandemic hit, it was like, we're all affected, and everyone's, we're losing friends, family members, we're losing jobs, we're losing kids are at home, the chaos. But it was like, but one thing, that the solidarity of knowing that we are not alone, it's not just us. And the truth is about fears. We all have fears. You're not alone. I don't know anyone that doesn't have a
Right,
fear. And
right,
some
right.
people get over things.
Actually, yeah. Go ahead.
No, no, some
Sorry.
people get over things differently or can handle them differently, but not everybody can. So go ahead.
Right, right. I was gonna say, that there are different types of fears too, and anxiety is like long-term fear. Anxiety is very common in the US, especially now during the pandemic. A lot of people are affected by anxiety.
Yeah.
The statistic is 18% of the population is affected each year, and 12% of adults experience phobias, which is an extreme fear of a very specific situation, object, or animal, like spiders, heights, enclosed spaces, things like that. But Jill, the problem with living with our fears instead of overcoming them is we live in a state of stress, and our body releases a chemical called cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
Too much can cause problems sleeping and focusing. It can cause weight gain and
Yep.
even affect our immune system. So, it's important to identify, first of all, to identify the fears and to really have the mindset of wanting to overcome them.
Got it. Absolutely. And we talked about mindset and the importance of that for sure. And, um, you know, you say be accountable, which you have to educate yourself. Also, the coping tools. So you mentioned meditation, doing yoga, taking deep breaths. For those people out there like me, I'd say, well, I'm too busy to do this or that. Everything in moderation, right? You could start
Right.
slowly and then start rewarding yourself. I like that. And
Yeah.
yeah. And you say if we think of life like an adventure, it becomes an exciting journey. You only have one
Right.
life. You say join the journey for personal growth. We all have greatness in us. Don't settle for mediocrity. Live your life to the fullest and build the life of your dreams. I love that you're so passionate. Could you share some stories about some of your clients that you've worked through with them? You don't have to mention their names, but some of the things
Mhm.
that you're helping them with today?
Sure, sure. I have a client who I've been working with on relationships um, for actually for a long time because uh, she is single and she is looking for her mate, and we've we've we have such a great relationship, and she has grown so much, and I'm in there with her in the moment, and you know she she is an expert on self-love. We should have her on the show.
Bring her on.
So yeah, she's one of my clients. I've helped people get jobs. I've helped people do their resumes. I've helped I've helped people with interview skills. I've helped a client, really find herself. She's a mother of two, and her son was addicted to drugs, and she was blaming herself, and really,
Wow.
really having struggling,
Yeah.
and so I helped her to disconnect from, you know, feeling responsible for someone else's life, and
Hmm.
it's you know and so many things come up while we're in session, so we address them as they come up, so it's very organic.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here, for joining us today, talking about those fears. Jane, remind us how we can reach out to you again, please.
Sure. JayneSchwartzCoaching.com. That's JayneSchwarz coaching.com. And my phone number is 631-479-2983.
Perfect. And looking forward to the next time we speak again. But you give us more to think about today. And going forward, if someone does want to call, is there an initial conversation you'll have with them? Is there
Yes. Yes, I have a free consultation. The first consultation is free, and
awesome?
it's about 45 minutes. So it's plenty of time to talk and find out if we're a good match.
Perfect. Thank you for your time today. Have a great day and have an even better weekend. Bye bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. Or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.